Hey, everybody, welcome to ITD Appetizers. What's on the news today? Kojima Xbox merge as one unit. They're like Voltron, but with little legs. All right, today we're going to start talking about Kojima's partnership. Supposedly, it's just a little letter. It's like a promise ring without the sex. Hopefully, it's not sex. So, Nick, what is your thoughts about Kojima partners with Xbox?
Yeah, I mean, it'll be interesting to see what game that he comes up with. Kojima is definitely an interesting developer. You know, his last few games weren't super hits with me. I didn't care greatly for the Phantom Pain. I love Metal Gear, but I think Phantom Pain was my least favorite of them. I like the older ones like 5 and 4 and 3 and 2 and 1. Those were way better, I think, personally, than Phantom Pain. But I just think of the open worldness of Phantom Pain really just what, shot it down for me. I like that kind of linear style that the old Metal Gears had. And more like story focused linear style. And then Death Stranding, which was, of course, his last one when he's gone, now that he's no longer with Konami and he has his own studio. And Death Stranding is an okay game. I beat it, but I definitely don't want to play through that game again. They're coming out with a developer's cut or director's cut that Kojima's going to come out with. And, if you haven't played the game before and you're interested in it, that's great. But for those who have, like myself, I couldn't see myself wanting to play even more of that game. It was enough the first time around. That game is just really slow, and it takes a long time to get from point A to point B, and it's a pretty long game. So once you get through it all and you're finally finished with it, and it had some really cool parts, like the BTs and stuff like that were really neat. But once you're finally finished with the game, it's one of those games where you're like, replay value is like 0, right? It's like once you're done, you play it from A to B, and once it's completed, you're like, okay, that one's going on the shelf and never coming back out. So that was that game. So it'll be interesting what he makes here, because hopefully it's something new, like with Death Stranding, but not in the same vein as Death Stranding. Something maybe a little more action oriented, or maybe some horror type game or something like that. That would be pretty cool to see. So it'll be interesting to see what happens, and if this deal actually goes through. This type of partnerships and things like that happen all the time. You think of Xbox and Platinum with Scalebound, and look where that went. So, I mean, this could potentially go the same route. But what do you think, Shane?
Yeah, I don't want to see a Scalebound situation, because I was super pumped for Scalebound. 4 players, dragons. I mean, freaking awesome. Just written all over it. And, well, we all cried the day they killed that. Kojima is, it's Hideo Kojima. He's nuts, and his games are nuts. Even his old school Metal Gear Solid days. Metal Gear Solid 2, the Lee Lai Lo La Lay. I mean, do you remember that? I'm like, man, I don't know the lore that well. I've never heard that crap. I thought it was just, somebody freaking out. But I would love to see him get to horror. That would be cool, because that PT trailer, I still got it on my PS4. I won't take it off. It's just freaking awesome. I'll play it today. I love that thing. I loved how he did that. It was just the right amount of creepy. But I would also like to see a Zone of Interest type of game come back too. We haven't had something like that in a long time, and the last one he did was 20 years ago. Granted, he probably don't own the IP. It's probably a Konami, but I think it's interesting. I think Microsoft had a check, and there you go, Mr. Kojima. I think that's basically what's going to come down to. I'm guessing, his partnership with Sony wasn't working too well on Death Stranding. That sucks. But, I'm glad to see him, still working. He's crazy, but he's got some cool ideals in his own way. I agree with you. 5 was the worst iteration of Phantom Pain. To me, you can't beat Snake Eaters. I think Snake Eater was one of my favorites by far. The 1 and Snake Eater. But I think Konami, or Kojima, splitting with Konami, gave him that room to just completely go Kojima on all his games. That's why we got Death Stranding. Konami probably kept him reined in and kept him from going to Kojima. But I think that's also one reason we got the Phantom Pain, because when it was being worked on, open world games were really expanding out. People were putting open world in freaking everything. And I agree with you. I want my Metal Gear more linear. I want that solid yet slightly weird story. And I want to see Kojima go back to that. I think that was his best work, story-wise, gameplay-wise, character-wise. But, at the end of the day, I don't think anybody's going to be able to tell Kojima what to do anymore. And I'm okay with that. He just needs to step back on some of his ideals and go, yeah, that's probably not cool. And, change his mind a little bit. Because I think that was the weirdness of Death Stranding that people had problems with, some of those things. But, I can't wait to see what he does. I'm excited. I think Microsoft is a surprising partnership on anything with Kojima, because Kojima really is more synonymous with PlayStation. And, every game I've played of his has basically been on PlayStation, except for Phantom Pain. I did that on my Xbox. So I don't know. Do you think he's already got a pitch in mind, what he's wanting to do, or even what something he's been working on? He's already showed Microsoft.
Possibly. I do think he has something in mind and has already maybe worked on something. I mean, Death Stranding's. It's been a while since Death Stranding's been out, So he's got, besides the director's cut, he's got to be working on some other game. So, and yeah, you coincide Kojima with Sony, but really, if you think about it, at the time when most of those products came out on the Sony platform, they were under the umbrella of Konami. So, was it really Kojima's, idea or, say, okay, well, these are going to PlayStation or whatever? Probably not. It's probably higher ups and Konami saying you're making these for this system or this whatever. And it could be also that, possibly at the time Sony had a somewhat stake in Konami, or had they had a partnership or a deal or something like that, where a lot of their games came to their system. That was kind of going on around that time where, I remember when developers had that kind of stint where they weren't purchased by them, but they had kind of an exclusivity contract where all their games came there first, or they came there exclusively to that system. Both of them kind of had, Microsoft and Sony had that kind of thing going on. So that's not really a thing anymore. Now they just buy them, or or they just have that exclusive 6-month thing or whatever. So yeah, I think it's just for Kojima going with Xbox. I don't think it was I don't necessarily think it was him just looking for Xbox is a better system than Sony or for whatever. It was probably, like you said, someone wrote him a blank check, and this time it happened to be Microsoft, and they're trying to influence more, of a Japanese or Asian market too with the Xbox. And so what's a good way to get into that market even more? Then, they've been a little bit more successful this year than they have previous installments of the Xbox, supposedly. So how to get in that market more is to get someone like Kojima. I'm sure his stuff is probably pretty popular over there, I would imagine, or at least a Japanese developer. So, if they can get a Kojima game on Xbox, that might, boost their standards and boost them in Japan. So we'll see what happens. I mean, Death Stranding had its faults, but it did have some pretty cool stuff in there. Kojima did have some good ideas in there, like the roads, building the roads and stuff was a really fun little activity in the game. And then the BTs, that area where you're going in and you have to kind of stealth through the BT area and stuff. That's intense. That was super intense. It was just everything else in between, going from point A to point B with a package, and how long that took to just get there. Later on you would get trucks and vehicles and stuff like that, but you could go halfway across the map to deliver a pizza. I mean, there was a mission where you had to deliver a pizza, and you had to deliver it in so much time or less. and it was really far away. And you had to go slow and can't go over bumps and stuff or mess up the pizza and everything. But so there were some missions that weren't really. I did them all, but there were some missions that weren't really that were kind of boring. But the like I said, the road system and the BT system was really cool. So he did have some really good ideas in there. So it'll be interesting to see what happens. But yeah, that's cool. I mean, I'm glad to see Kojima make another game, and I'm looking forward to see what it is.
Yeah, I think it's a really good pick for Microsoft to work with because the Series S has actually been selling quite well in Japan. It's compared to the PlayStation 5. It's it's a nugget. Switch really ain't much smaller. So the S has been doing good. So a Kojima game in Japan would really, really pump them up. And I'm excited to see what they're doing. I really think out of any genre I could lead towards, I would like to see him approach that horror game like he did with PT. I think that's really where I would prefer to see him go. I don't know how well horror games do in Japan, Fatal Frame and stuff like that, but you don't really hear of horror games like that anymore, except for Resident Evil. So, but I would like to see him go towards a horror genre. What about you?
Yeah, I would like to see him go towards a horror genre. It would be nice to have a new horror game because we don't get them very often. And like I said, all we have now is pretty much Resident Evil. I mean, I can't think of any other horror game except for maybe like Outlast and stuff. But I mean, Outlast 2, the last time, it's been years since that one came out. And so, we don't really get anything nowadays. So it would be nice to see him go that route. I don't know if he will. I think we all got PT on the head, with that. So he may not go that route at all. It might be a completely different game, but I hope it's just more action oriented, than the carrying mail back and forth or any of that stuff. Like maybe more linear, maybe not open world, maybe a more linear, like story driven action game. That'd be cool.
Yeah, I would love to see him go back to his roots. But I guess we'll find out. Hopefully something around Gamescom time would be maybe announced that at least the partnership is signed in. That would be cool. I would love to see him. Hey, December you're gonna have this new game with me and Microsoft, and everybody's like, yay! But it ain't gonna happen. So
by December,
but
I don't think it'll be that quick. December of 2022, maybe.
Hey, I don't need you to shit on my dreams. I've got a wife. All right. Well, you got anything else before we head on out of here with this news?
I don't think so. No.
All right. All right. Well, everybody, thanks for listening. Get inside your little cardboard box, Kojima style. And don't forget to like, share, and tell your friends. We'll see you later. See ya.